many people were signed? Leah, how many people were signed up? Just so I get an idea of what percentage are on here now.
I think you can start.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Mark Lorenzoni, and along with Leah Connor, I welcome you on behalf of the track club, the Charlottesville Track Club, to a real live training program this summer. It's really progressing very quickly. I'm delighted that we're going to be able to do this in person. Most of it's anecdotal, but I really strongly believe that most people that are attracted to the sport of distance running believe in science and believe in the same types of things I believe in, which I personally think are the right things, which I don't always think of the right things, but and are getting fully vaccinated. So I think we're really heading towards a good scenario here of this being about as normal as it can be. So I'm going to try and keep this relatively brief today because I know it's a Sunday for you all, and so I'm going to talk a little history and some background, and then talk about the goals of the program and how things are going to work. And I encourage you, if you've got any questions that are general questions, to ask them today. If they're more personal questions, you just can talk to me through the normal channels. So especially when we get to our one-on-ones, which I've already had several with folks. So anyway, I've served as the volunteer coach for this program for over 30 years now. Leah's been right alongside me for about half of that time. I would say that she took it to the next level, just brought it into the modern world with communication, and just the way we go at it now just is a lot more concise and efficient. The old days, it was just before we had all of the computer technology, so to be able to communicate with people. So couldn't do it without Leah. And both of us serve as volunteers with the track club. So this is just a real pure enjoyment for us. The goal of the program always has been to get folks safely to their own personal goals in either a half or a full in either September, October, November. We have some in December. I discourage getting too much farther out from that, just because we're going to blur into the 10-miler training program at that point. It just becomes a little more inefficient. We stopped our group runs in late October anyway. And my goals as a coach are essentially the goals of the program. Number one and foremost above everything else is just to keep you as injury-free as possible. That sounds like a negative in that, oh my God, does this mean that running injures you? Well, it can injure you if you go at it in the wrong way, or you're not listening to your body. And so hopefully I can teach you a fair amount about how to avoid injury. And I always say to folks, if you don't have that as your number one goal, you're not prioritizing right, because if you're injured, the next three goals don't fall into place. And so the second goal is to have you really enjoy lacing up your shoes. As a coach, I've tried to be as creative as possible and still follow the science, still follow the basics. I've been coaching for 40 years now, and I'm always trying to make it as interesting as possible, and I don't want it to become a burden for you. And that's number three, is to make sure that it balances in your life. I think it's like nails down a chalkboard to me as a coach when somebody says, my housemate, my spouse, my partner, my family, this is becoming a real drag on them. And so I'm always trying to figure out ways so that we can make this be a balance in your life and an enhancement, actually. I think that's really important. Then the fourth goal is the goal that people quite often put number one. I put it number four because I feel like if you can get those first three in place, it's not, I'd like to think I'm a good coach. I'm still learning even after 4 years, but I've been pretty successful, from getting novices off the couch to getting people in Olympic trials and people winning marathons and winning their age groups and getting to Boston and setting PRs. But I think, if we can get those first three in place, you're going to get that fourth one. And that's just you getting to your own personal goal. And so that kind of brings me to the next point of the conversation, is that so often folks get frustrated with me when I say I'm not accepting of the phrase, my goal is to just finish the event. Well, that goes without saying. Of course it is. But you're going to have a much safer, productive, and enjoyable journey if you can um, have a specific goal that is realistic. And I'm big on I'm big on you getting to your maximum potential on any given training cycle. But it has to be a realistic goal. And if it's realistic, we're going to be able to attain it. And so if you say, well, Mark, I'm so slow and I've never done a marathon before, that doesn't matter. This program is nothing about, there's no requirements as far as your pace goes, but we do want to hone in on what's realistic for you so you can train scientifically and say, oh God, scientifically, that sounds so, um, strenuous and maybe monotonous and controlling. And nothing could be further from the truth. If you embrace the science of distance running, you're going to really enjoy it that much more. And you're going to learn a lot about your body and your potential. So anyway, if you haven't run a recent time, you need a 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon within the past few months, then you need to do that 2-mile time trial. I had one person show up last week. I was starting to feel like a lonely guy there, and then a woman showed up, and it was fun because she said she's never been able to negative split. She always starts out too fast, all her runs, and gets slower. She went on and she knocked it out of the park. We had a nice one-on-one session there. But I'm going to be out there every week at Almar High School at 5. Well, I'm going to be there with another group at 5:30, experienced folks. But if you're warmed up and ready to go at 6, I'll put a stopwatch on you and I'll teach you a lot about its first steps for some of you in learning how to pace yourself. There was a guy out there, one of my veterans, who just happened to be out there running around. He said to the woman, congrats on finishing. And he goes, you've just, which day is this? Someone's asking. It's Wednesday, every Wednesday at 6 o'clock in the morning. Sorry if I didn't say that. And it's over at Almar High School. Anyway, he said to this woman, you've just finished the most painful part of the entire training program. And he was absolutely right, because it's a 2-mile race. I hate to say it, but I get really frustrated when people submit their 2-mile time. And I said, what is this? And they say, oh, it's just 2 miles in the middle of one of my runs. I just randomly picked it. That's not a 2-mile time trial. That's not going to give us an idea of what your potential is for your half or full. So you just got to suck it up and do it. We started doing this about 7-8 years ago, requiring it because so many people were putting down goals that were random. I was coaching them, and at the end of the season, they were failing. And I realized from the get-go, the goal was unrealistic. It wasn't, it's just the time that they, I break 4 hours. Well, to break 4 hours in a marathon, that's 9-minute pace. And when you can't run 20 minutes for a 2-mile time trial, that probably isn't the right goal for you. And that's, it's not set up to belittle you, it's set up to enhance your training experience. So anyway, the biggest thing I'm going to be impressing upon, you're going to get so tired of hearing it. I'm going to be doing as many emails to you as possible. I try and do them weekly. Sometimes I skip a week, but you're going to see in there over and over again, trying to teach you about breathing and perception of effort. And the greatest, to be good at any sport, you study the greatest and you look at the trends on how they train, whether it's tennis, golf, basketball, and in our case, distance running. And we look to the Africans, the Kenyans, Ethiopians, and they forever have believed strongly in, running at your aerobic heart rate for most of your runs throughout the week. And aerobic heart rate is essentially conversational pace. It's keeping your heart rate right around 140 or less. And it's slow. It's for each individual person, it's slow for them. That's how you train your body to get ready for a long distance race. And that's by far the most difficult thing to attain. Yeah, no, Mark, I feel really comfortable. Your heart rate's 160. You're not hitting your workouts. I was telling a story this morning on a run with some friends about this one guy who always fails at his marathons. And he doesn't, it's because he runs so many of his runs, his regular runs, so much faster than he should. So he always goes into the marathon tired. I can always tell when you're cheating, and we'll get to the journal in a second. I can tell from the journal, but I can always tell when you're cheating the system, and it's not like you're doing it purposefully. In fact, most of the time people say, this is the hardest thing, Mark, I have to do is slow. I can't slow myself down. It's so difficult. But anyway, I know it when you can't hit your workouts. If you can't hit 10 miles at marathon pace in late September for a November marathon, either we've got an unrealistic goal or you're running too fast on your recovery days. There's an 80-20 rule. 80% of your week should be run slower than your targeted pace by quite a bit, a minute to 90 seconds per mile. And then the other 20% you can do your workout and your speed, whatever it might be that I throw at you. So, but it is, if I can get you to embrace that, believe in it, and practice it and execute it, you're going to be a successful distance runner. And the example I use more and more is 2 years ago, I read this interview with a world record holder. It was in the New York Times. He'd run under 2 hours for the marathon, not for the half, which, by the way, is a huge goal for most of our runners out this summer, is to break 2.5. And he's runs at so that's about 4:30 pace, if you can imagine, 4 minutes and 30 seconds a mile. He trains at 7 to 8 minute pace for 80 of his 100 miles each week. Now, why then do I have people from Schultzville I coach that are shooting for 9-minute marathons and run their runs at 9:20 pace all the time? So you're not any better than that guy. And so it leads to burnout or injury every time. Every time. I've never seen anyone able to get away with it. Now, your goal might be unrealistic, too soft. You might say, Mark, I'm trying to run 4 hours for the marathon, and I'm looking at your heart rate and looking at your workouts. I'm like, we had too soft a goal. Let's go for 3:45. But usually it's the other way around. And it takes folks a while to get to know me. If you give me a chance, most of the people who have been with me for a lot of years know I'm a little gruff and direct, and I can be pretty pointed, but I've got your back. The weird thing is, most of the time when people don't agree with me on stuff, they don't have their own back. They're trying to push off someone who actually deeply cares about them being successful. So try to listen and embrace. This is going to sound like bragging, but I've been way too successful at this for a long time for this to be crazy. And you Google 100 coaches around the country, all these online paid coaches. There's not anybody out there that's telling people, oh, there's one program floating around: run less, run faster, something, and run more successfully. That's, most of us know in life, you take shortcuts. That's the anomaly that is successful on that. You've got to run the right way to get successful at this. Until you have your one-on-ones with me, please follow the templates that I've created and that Leah has posted on the site. And they're beginner, and you just find the one, forget about the title of each column, just look for the one that looks like your current mileage and kind of latch on to that. It gives weekly mileage, it gives you long run. And if you're really anxious, you're still confused, don't hesitate to text me or stop by, and I can answer questions for you. I'm happy to do it, but otherwise wait for your one-on-ones with me. When I sit down with you for those one-on-ones, I'm going to write you an individualized program. And the most important part of that program is going to be your pace chart. So make sure you come with your current 2-mile time trial or a recent time. Somebody said to me recently, golly, I didn't do a 2-mile time trial, but I ran a marathon this spring. Is that okay? Well, that's actually better. I'm just trying to avoid you having to run long distance to get yourself to figure out the pace. And you can do it scientifically. You can run 2 miles. If you do it properly, we can predict where you're going to be for the marathon or half marathon in this cycle. Those one-on-ones I'd like to do them face-to-face. We do them sitting outside, and I'll wear a mask. I still wear a mask even though I'm fully vaccinated. But if you're uncomfortable with that, or you don't live in the area, we certainly can do it by FaceTime, which I've been doing with some folks. That's fine. There looked like there was a question about the 2-mile time trial on the chat. What is? I missed it. It came off the screen there. So the 2-mile time trial really is just 8 laps on the track, and you progressively get faster with each lap. I call it a mini marathon in that your first lap is like the first 4 or 5 miles of the race, or 3 to 4 miles, and you just pick it up from there. If you do it properly, you negative split your second miles faster than your first, and you're gassed for the last 2 laps. That's the way to do it. It's like I said, it's painful, it's a pain, but it really is accurate. We're going to be doing this Saturday. Question was if you should be running it as fast as you can. Okay, I still don't understand what that means, as fast as you can. Yes, you're not going to run as fast as you can for the first lap, but you're going to run as fast. When you're finished, you want to say, I put out. If you come across chatting, if you do it with a friend and you're gabbing away, that's not very scientific. It's not going to give us a good read. It is a race. And it usually works out to about 1:10, 1:20 faster than your marathon pace. So if you're shooting for 10-minute pace, you got to run under 18 minutes for that 2-mile time trial.
And can I make a point here, and I'll put it in the
Yeah,
chat,
yeah.
but I mean, all this information about how to pace yourself on the 2-mile time trial and the tips and whatnot, and what a 2-mile can equate to and all that is in the program booklet and also on the website. And when you sign up officially for the program, you'll get an email that explains what Mark was saying about how he's going to be, what dates he's going to be at Almara High School. We didn't put that publicly out there yet because, we want people to sign up if they want to do the program. So, but all the information about a 2-mile time trial is on the website. You don't have to be registered to get that information.
Yeah, thanks, Leah. The booklet is available when you come for your one-on-ones. I've got it printed out. Some people like to have something like, physical like that. Other folks prefer to have it online. You'll get that, and you'll also get a copy of your log, which these come along with the program. It's nothing fancy, and I'll go over this log in a second. It's really important to keep a log. So the heart of the program are the Saturday runs, and they're optional, but that's how you're going to meet other folks, and you're going to meet hopefully like-minded folks, people you get along with, and also the most important thing initially is that you're running the same pace. So we break into pace groups. Now it's pretty doggone safe to be outside, especially if you're fully vaccinated without a mask, and we're just ready to roll with it. By the time we get to July 3rd, a good percentage of our community is going to be fully vaccinated. So, and there are different locations, they're in the booklet, and things will be laid out for you. The course will be marked. We're not going to have water and Gatorade every 2 miles this year because of COVID. We're kind of working our way back into this full-fledged. So we'll have water at the start finish, and most of these courses will come back by the start finish. But we're really strongly encouraging you this summer. And I'm always a little awkward with this because I have a business and I don't like it looking like I'm trying to hawk my wares. But I brought a couple of examples. You can get a handheld carrier, and a lot of people are now using these vests, which you can store a ton of water, and there's also pockets enough to go into battle with. I mean, there's so many different nooks and crannies in there for your goos and your gels. And we'll be going over this kind of stuff as we get closer to, but all of my Boston Bound group, they don't have water every 2 miles out there. And that's my experienced folks that have been marathoning for a while. They just carry their own water. They figure it out. So we're going to take it a step further than that, but we're not. It's so much work. It takes 2 hours every week to set it up, and takes a lot to clean it up. And so we thought this year we take it up a notch and just have it at the start finish, except at Whitehall. Whitehall will have the start finish and then down the bottom of the hill. And for you new folks, I guess there's 90 people in the program so far, which is great. I think Leah said almost 30 of you are new. Whitehall, the bottom of the hill, means nothing to you, but it will after you run it. It's one of our most popular runs. We've created these runs over the years. They're safe. They're essentially not terribly hilly. They're almost completely auto-free. They're not totally, and there's parking. And it took us a long time to come up with these 7 or 8 different routes. They're in all different parts of the county. We feel really, at the end of summer, most people really rave about the locations, places they would have never run before. And that's in your booklet also. You'll see we're going to undulate. One week will be long and slow. The next week you'll be working on your pace and practicing your pace, which makes it more fun to have that. So you'll look forward to the long, slow run. And you say, oh God, next week I get to go faster and shorter. And next week I get to go long again. So it undulates like that. Those long runs, I'll be there for most of them. I'll give a quick lecture. I try to be as brief as possible. Leah and I always laugh at we survey at the end of the program every summer. There's a handful of people that say, I wish Mark would shut up and not talk so much on Saturday morning. And there's other groups that say, I wish Mark would have talked longer and I've always found it to be very informative. So therein lies the dilemma of ever being in charge of anything. You drive yourself crazy if you're trying to please everyone. So I try and keep it as brief as possible. But they are good opportunities to learn and then to meet other people. And we have many, many, many friendships over the years. It's one of my great thrills. Okay, what's this now? Stay at 180 minus your age plus 5. Yeah, that's a good formula also for heart rate. Just came up there. So that's, there's going to come a point, you guys, where you're going to learn so much about your own comfort level. It's called perceived effort, that you won't need a heart rate monitor to figure out whether you're doing the right thing or not. You're going to be, the idea is to be at the same effort going up a hill as down a hill, the same effort on a hot day as a cool day, the same effort when you've got 9 hours sleep versus 5 hours sleep. Your pace is going to change. A good athlete their pace changes all the time, changes based on course, environment, and their stressors in their life. If your pace is staying the same all the time, that means something you're too much into numbers and you're not grasping perception of effort. So how can you possibly feel as comfortable going up a hill as going down a hill? You slow down. So if your normal aerobic heart rate is somewhere around 10 minutes, going up a hill, it might be 10:30 to 10:40 pace. And then going down a hill, it might be like 9:30 pace. And then on the flats, it's 10. So your pace will vary throughout the run based on that perceived effort. Again, it's a tough concept to grasp, but once you get it, you'll really embrace it. It's just the idea is to feel really comfortable the whole time. So getting back to these long runs, they'll start in July 3rd. Like I said, I'll be there for as many as possible. They're wonderful opportunities. Oh, I was saying about friendships. We have so many long-term friendships that have come out of this training program over the years. It's something I'm really proud of. It always makes me very happy. So, okay, so the journal, everything these days, as you guys know, gets locked into your phone or your Garmin. It all gets tapped into there, and you might, gets posted on Strava or whatever, and you look at your time, and you're not really taking stock of it. When you use a journal, it forces you to actually take stock of your training and how you're feeling. This is one that we put together. You can't see it, but on here, there's all these items each day to check: location, terrain, weather, total distance, hours of sleep, aches or pains, how much hydration, whether you cross-train that day, your current shoe mileage. None of that stuff is as important as these 4 items here. One is your first mile pace, which should always be slower unless it's downhill. Then your overall pace, that should always be faster than your first mile. And then your comfort level, 1 to 10. 1 means you feel like you can't even get out of bed. 10 means you feel like super person. And then the last one's how do you feel? So somebody said the other day, well, aren't those the two the same thing? Kind of. Comfort level gives a number, but how do you feel might say, I'm exhausted from work. I just got back from a long trip. I dragged through this run, but I slowed down. And so I ended up feeling pretty good. So my comfort level was like 7 or 8, even though and that's why it was so slow, because I slowed down to take stock of it. So I'm going to ask to see this when you come by to see me, not for the one-on-ones, but if you come by to see me with a problem, you're starting to struggle, you've got an ache or pain. Oh my gosh, this is so helpful. It gives me so many clues, especially if it's filled out. And I always know if it's being filled out 10 minutes before the meeting, when every single entry looks the same writing. There's the same pen, the same writing. I said, oh, come on. So anyway, again, I'm trying to help you be better long distance runners. The more serious you take it, the better you're going to be at it. I was just thinking about something here. Cross training might have been it, but God, I can't remember. So cross training, the number one weakness runners have is their core. You hear this over and over and over again. Well, why is core so important? Well, the stronger your midsection is, your torso is, the more efficient you're going to be running, because the whole goal is to run so that your nose is slightly out over your toes. So you want a slight lean from your ankles, about 3 degrees, not 10 or 15 or 20 degrees, but a slight lean. And that way you hit the middle of your foot. It's called midfoot mechanics. It's how the Africans run, instead of hitting your heels. Every time you hit your heels, you're not only slowing yourself down, but you're risking injury. And the only way you can keep your body in that position over 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 miles is by having a strong core. And running does not strengthen your core. It strengthens your cardiovascular system. It burns calories, makes you fitter, your heart muscle, but it doesn't strengthen your core. Physical therapists have a field day with runners. They say, you runners are all the same. You're tight and you have lousy cores. We're also some of the fittest people in town. So I always take a little slight to that negative comment, but they are right. So how do you work on it? You can get to a gym. There's lots of programs in this town where many of the studios work on core, or you can do it at home like I do. And I usually do about 8 to 10 minutes in the morning, hand weights, planks, sit-ups, push-ups. I do a lot of balancing stuff with hand weights on one leg. And my back is so much better than it was 3 or 4 years ago. My hamstrings are a lot looser. And that means I've really been working on engaging my core. Happy to give you a one-on-one session with that sometime if you say, Mark, I'd like to do it at home. I do it. I always tell you guys, you should run and you should do your core work when it least negatively impacts the people around you, because otherwise you're going to start making excuses not to do it. So for me, it's out of bed in the morning, get out and do my run. When I come back, quickly get my core work done. And that way I don't make excuses later on. Any questions about that? Very, very important. And people say, how often? Gosh, if you can do it every day, fantastic. But minimum of 3 to 4 days a week. People say all the time, I want to do something, because cross training is such a catchy term. And people say, I want to do some cross training. Well, the goal of cross training is to enhance your primary exercise. In your case, you guys this summer are distance runners. So what's going to enhance your distance running? Well, it's got to be things that don't tire you out. So going for a 100-mile bicycle ride on a Sunday, the day after your 20-mile run, could make you fitter, but it's most likely going to make you tired. And don't go away from this meeting today saying Mark's anti-cyclist. I just actually complimented cycling. I don't think of cycling a long distance as an efficient way to cross train when you're running 50 miles a week. Why? Because cycling is a legitimate activity and it's not going to enhance your training long term. So you got to find things that are running in the pool. I love that. Cools you off, works on your core, and it counts as a run, doesn't tire you out. It's not weight bearing. If you can get to a pool, that's probably one of the better cross training tools for running. So big, I think it's critically important. Okay, so I know I'm leaving stuff out here. There was something else that was on my mind before and I've lost it. Any questions, you guys? There was one that popped up there a few seconds ago and I wasn't looking closely
And you
at it.
suggest other types of cross training?
Well, yoga's good because again, it doesn't tire you out as much as some of the other cross training activities that people do. If you're going to do swimming, I'd rather see you pool running, but if you're going to do swimming, again, you've got to be careful that you're going moderately. I've had some folks that are doing things like Orange Theory 6-7 days a week, and they're and they run really hard for 1.5 to 2 miles. And eventually that is not going to mesh with their long distance training. So I've talked them not out of Orange Theory, but talk them down the number of days per week. You guys don't know whether your cross training is working or not. When you come in, if you come in your runs after doing this for 4 or 5 weeks and you're tired and you're limping through your long runs, or you're starting to get an ache or pain, oh, that was it. I'm talking about injury here. But anyway, you'll know that your cross training is not helping you. So the golden cross training is something that enhances your running, but doesn't tire you out for your running. And that's why I like those planks, push-ups, sit-ups, and that's not going to tire you out. So you got to find things that aren't going. Pilates, a couple days a week, maybe. You got to find something that isn't going to exhaust you. And getting back to that injury, and that was the thing I want to talk about, it's very important. I have a 24-hour rule. Of course, most people don't follow rules, especially since I'm an unpaid coach. It's been pointed out to me over and over again that if I was paid and I was a professional coach, that people would listen to me more, which I find that really interesting. I would think it'd be the other way around. I'm doing this volunteer out of the goodness of my heart, and I ask for one stinking thing: communicate with me. And people are like, I don't want to bother you. So you bother me when it's 3 weeks out and you come to me with an injury, and I say, when did this start? 3 weeks ago. It's too late at that point. It's too late for me to help you get rid of it quickly. But if you get to me 1 or 2 days afterwards, like my veteran athletes do, holy mackerel. There are very few injuries that we can't remedy very quickly if you get to me early on. I'm not God, and I'm certainly not Darth Vader, but I am trying to help control your life by helping you get on top of these injuries fast. So it's 24-hour rule, and if it's one side of the body that I get concerned about. It's one hip, one knee, one Achilles, one calf, one hamstring. Let's get on it fast. And I'm big on getting to the source, so whatever the source is, we got to eliminate it. And there's so many reasons. It can be sitting, driving, stress, shoes, something you're doing wrong with your mechanics. So there was a question there about the group runs, the setup. We're not going to be asking this year for you guys to be doing it. We're trying to streamline it and make it just a tad bit more efficient. So Leah's been in touch with some of the veterans, and they're going to be treating us this year and helping out with that. So you're off the hook. You don't have to do that. So if you've done it in the past and you really want to do it again this summer, then you can get in touch with Leah or Joan. And I forgot to mention Joan earlier. She helps coordinate those long run coordinators, Joan Bienvenu, who's been wonderful help over the last 15 years. So Henry, I don't know if that answers your question, but anything that is not going to tire you out, that's going to strengthen your core, I'm huge on. So leg strength, my physical therapist is a big advocate of leg strengthening. If you're going to be working on leg strengthening, you better have someone that's more experienced than me, a physical therapist, helping you. Yes, because some folks get injured doing squats, other folks it enhances them. So get to a good physical therapist, have them do a good makeover, look at your whole body, look at your weaknesses, and they will give you some strengthening exercises. That's not my forte. I did not go to physical therapy school, so and I can't touch your body either. So the two go hand in hand, no pun intended. So a physical therapist is going to be able to say, whoa, your left quad is firing at a different rate than your right quad. We need to strengthen that. Here's some specific exercises. So, but if overall you're just looking to improve your efficiency, doing that midfoot mechanics, that nose over toes, I call it the 30 per 20 rule, where one foot hits the ground 30 times every 20 seconds, which of course equates to 90 per minute, which is 180 per minute for both feet. And if you're keeping your nose over your toes, you're probably going to be a lot more efficient. And that, again, the cross training, the core work really helps with that. I think that's my list there. So let's fire away with some questions. from folks, or things that some veterans say, Mark, you missed this. Why didn't you talk about this?
Mark, hi, and yes, thank you for Wednesday. That was very helpful to me.
Oh, yes, Donna, good.
Yes,
You were,
and ever since, so far, so good. I'm really checking my watch.
yeah.
I had sent something by the chat, but it didn't work out. So I just wanted to know, are you going to be providing Cliff Bars like you have in the past at the end of the
Yes,
run?
we'll
Okay.
have Cliff Bars and Gatorade and water. We'll set this up in such a way that we think it'll still be relatively safe if you come back, fill up your water bottles. But yes, Cliff Bars will be at the end.
Okay, and the other thing is, so I assume now we just take one of the plans and then just begin, correct? Not wait till July 3rd?
You're gonna, their plans are already rolling. So
Okay, so just get going then.
Week of May 24, and then you got to look for whatever your marathon, half marathon is, October, and then look to see what best suits where you're currently at.
Okay,
Even if you're a beginner, if you're wherever the mileage is that matches you, that's where you want to go.
okay, so just jump in and start this week.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Almar High School track is open in the mornings. I don't know the school rules until school is out. I think you got to be careful getting out there in the middle of the day. Any of the public schools, for obvious reasons, they don't want people out on the track. So I just saw something pop up about that. Donna, you touched on Cliff Bars. You guys, there's a 20-minute recovery rule. It's very important that when you finish a workout or a long run, anything that's been pretty taxing on you, there's a 20-minute window, and most scientists feel like if you get the right stuff in your gut in that 20 minutes, it's going to enhance your recovery. And so I'm huge on chocolate milk, any kind of sports drink like Gatorade, banana, Cliff Bar. So you're going to find out every single Saturday is a PSAT for you guys. The SAT is your event in the fall. But these are all practices, and journal, you have to write down, ate this last night. Boy, that was a mistake. Got up and ate a bagel with peanut butter 2 hours before, an hour before. Boy, that was the right thing. That helped. And you're going to craft your own personal nutrition and game plan. By the time you get to the race, I'm always a little unnerved by someone that comes to me 2 weeks from a race saying, I haven't practiced with Goose, and I've never tried eating before, and I haven't really been keeping notes about my meals the night before. I'm like, wow, you missed an opportunity. So again, I'll go back to the phrase, it's like anything else in life. The more seriously you take this, the more you listen to me, the more you record in your journals, the better athlete you're going to be. My very most successful athletes are ones that are very in tune to all this. And you think, oh God, they're probably drive their spouses crazy. No, it's not that hard to follow along, get onto a regimen that, that works for you. So.
Hey, Mark, I have a question. I just came across all this yesterday, so I'm really happy to be here, but I saw a link to a Google form to submit that said it was due a couple days ago. For new people, should we still figure that or fill that out now?
Leah,
I think he's talking about the speedsters.
Yeah, it's a Speedsters Google form.
Oh, yeah. So the Speedsters this is going to get confusing. Let's see if you can follow along. So we have this marathon, half marathon training program every summer. And there's a percentage of you that you're just going to stick with that all the way through. Then there's a small percentage of you that your times and your experience and your background, I'm going to put you into my Boston group, which is free. There's not an extra charge. This is a track club fundraiser. All the others are free community groups. And then yet there's another group, Michael, that I'll say, I want you to follow the Wednesday Speedster workouts starting in July. And so if you can get on those email lists, the Speedster list is open to the public, Boston Bounds by invitation. We were getting too many folks on there that were not being respectful to me or to what we were trying to do. So that's by invitation. And I see a couple of folks on here have already gotten them onto the Boston group this summer. So if you're shooting for a marathon and you're shooting for 3:20 or 3:30 or 3:40, and you've got a little bit of a background, I'll probably put you on to the Boston group. But what I'll say, Michael, is you do the only the Wednesday workouts. Keep following the program I wrote for you for Saturdays, because I do really want to encourage you guys to come out on Saturday mornings. The more of you that are out there on any given Saturday, the more chance you're going to find a training partner, which we didn't have last summer because of COVID. So
Mark,
Thanks. Yeah.
shirts, are there going to be shirts this year?
well, probably Lee and I were just talking about this. We're probably going to do something towards the latter part, but there may be a small fee for it. We're not sure at this point. We normally get a fair amount of people to sign up. This is about where we're at most years, 90. When we're in May, we usually get close to 200. So, the more we sign up, the more dollars we'll have to give back.
And also, we haven't discussed the Ravenna Greenbelt Marathon and half marathon yet, but the goal, Mark and I are going to be discussing the timing of this and everything. The goal would be to have 2 races, one in October and one in early November. Early December, as like, a backup if Richmond is bad, and in October for people who aren't going to Chicago or some of the other big marathons. And, depending on how much interest we have, we could, my goal would be to hopefully give people in the training program free entry into that, and then have a set number of paid entries into the race. So that might be a perk for being in the program, but we need to figure out the best dates for that. And that would be another opportunity for people to volunteer, and then you could earn a shirt there.
Would that be at Riverview again?
Yes. Yeah. And
That's,
we had the half marathon. We only did the half marathon once, right, Mark? Or did we do
yeah,
it?
we did it in March.
It's like a blur, but like it worked out really well.
Yeah.
In fact, we have a lot of people who are interested in the half marathon, and even if and I had a conversation with Mark about this. Even if we have, I definitely want to offer something in October, because personally I want to do that. But mostly, by offering a half and a full, if the weather ends up being warm, people who signed up for the full marathon can just easily just do the half marathon instead and still have an experience without killing themselves, because we still don't want anybody to die. I don't know if anybody heard about that horrible incident in China where there was this ultra race today or last night, and like 21 runners, including some high caliber athletes, died because there was a freak storm. And
It's the worst running tragedy in history.
Yeah.
We've never lost that many people in a race before. It was all hypothermia. It was just a fluke storm. Yeah,
not
you
that
guys, this plays into the number one determining factor on race day. If you're prepared and you're ready to execute properly, there is nothing that you can do with the pot. You are not going to be successful. And it's killed many people's marathons over the years. And so in an effort to help with that, we've devised these local events that are, just roll out of bed, they're inexpensive, and you go down you can use them as a backup if your marathon went south on you. Chicago, when it was 90 degrees, you think Chicago, how could it get to 90 degrees? 2 years later, it was 85 degrees. Marine Corps hot almost every year. Richmond usually gets to be steadier, more reliable weather, but some years it's 80 degrees. And my mentor is Dr. Weltman over at the university. I've used him over the years for questions and advice. He's the head of exercise phys lab, kinesiology. And he always says to me, you start getting above 65 degrees, all bets are off. The pace starts plummeting. And so why train for 5 months and then have weather be the dictator? Why not have options? So we had very successful, we didn't have a ton of people, but I can't even tell you how many people qualified for Boston last fall and this spring at our little dinky marathon that Leah and I put on. I say dinky because there's 30, 35 people in it, but certified course. And President Ryan, who's one of my athletes, he came back to me after and said that was one of the best marathons I've ever experienced because I got into a rhythm. He loves locking in. Seems boring on the surface, but, and he goes, it was awesome to just roll out of bed and drive down there. My wife got to see me run a bunch of times back and forth, and, so it does work. So you'll get more information on that. I would encourage you guys, if you haven't signed up yet for anything, to think about Richmond. It's my favorite. I don't have any stake in the game. It's just, as a coach, there's columns, and the most successful marathoners, Richmond is way up towards the top. It's close by. It's a fair course. It's well organized. It's not overcrowded. And then there are other events I'm not going to talk about them publicly, but I can talk to you about individually, where it's over and over again, people have bad races there.
And Mark, has Richmond ever filled up?
No, never is filled up.
Okay, so you can wait till late in the,
Wait till late, and that's when they're going to be with this Leah option too. You might, choose to stay close to home and run a certified course with lots of support. Well, you've run it before, Henry, right? You ran last fall. Yes,
And
probably,
also another plug for Riverview, Ravenna, is that we have splits every 2 miles. So after you do the race, you can like really analyze your data. Like the only other race that has splits that often is none, because I think Chicago does 5K and Boston does 5Ks, time splits. And I know everybody has their watches, but it's better to have the official time.
people really, everybody that did that marathon, the two we did during the pandemic, raved about it. And yet some people came into a kicking and saying, it's going to be so boring. But once you embrace it. There was a question there. I'm targeting January, is this program not for me? Okay. Yeah, January's okay, but I'd prefer, you're not going to have any company after the end of October, because most of our 95% of the people in this program, Richmond or Philly, that's our last group. We call it a fall marathon training program, a half marathon training program, for a reason. We start getting in January and February, and I'll be writing you something. I'll definitely write you a program, but you're not going to have the group runs, because we finish those group runs up a couple weeks before Richmond.
Hey, Mark, if your base mileage, or if your weekly mileage is already above the weekly mileage for the base building, do you recommend backing off to fit into where we are in the plan presently?
Nope. The deeper the base, the better. I just don't want to intimidate people. I've kind of been not dumbed down as a coach, but I've had to learn over the years where there's a happy medium, not intimidating people. But there's hardly a coach out there that thinks, mileage is a bad idea, especially if you run it slow and easy. The deeper the base, the better you're going to be for a marathon. So you guys, the goal is to get you to 45 to 50 miles a week for the marathon, and to get you up to about 30 to 35 miles a week. There's an old adage, you should be double the distance of your race should be your weekly mileage. And this is not every single week for the entire program, but that's where you want to head to. And I tell this story quite often. And these two women, they were friends, but they're separate stories. Both of them, their goal was to break 4 hours. It was a dream for them. And one woman kept 4:18, 4:17, 4:21. And she got frustrated with me and the program. And I said, come see me, bring your journal. And her high mileage had been like 33 during those 3 marathons. And I said, you're not taking this enough. I said, for you to break 4 hours, you got to work harder with your mileage. And she got up to 50 miles, and she's never run slower than 4 hours again. She was 3:56, 3:58. The other woman was like 4:08, 4:03. She was getting close. Same deal, 32, 33 miles a week. And, unless you're like ridiculously talented and you can kind of fake your way through it, you got to put the miles in. So she got up to 50 miles a week, and she went to Boston twice, which was a sub-4 goal. So there's, the anomalies, people that can train less, but yeah. So long-winded answer, Steve, no. You just got to avoid burning yourself out. So what I don't want you to start too early is speed. or any kind of working out. Just get out there and log the miles. Again, you look at the Africans, they have a long period of base building, and then they go into their fine tuning, 10, 12 weeks out from the race. So this summer so far, what I've been seeing with the one-on-ones is a lot of you have given me the luxury of getting you a decent base. The lower your mileage is coming in, the greater the chance we're going to be climbing the whole way, which is not a problem, but more mileage you can do, the better. And again, I'm trying to fit this into your lifestyle. So don't leave this meeting saying, Mark's saying I'm going to be a failure if I can't get the mileage in. But, if you can get 5 days a week in and get 5 to 7 miles at a time in addition to your long run, or your long run, of course, not in addition, but that's your long run is always going to be more than 5 to 7. You'll get up there. You will get the mileage. Other questions before we conk off here? No one?
Are there ever like smaller groups, or what's the cadence of how often the teams meet? Or if there's not an official practice, do smaller groups meet up and run frequently? I found that running in groups is a significant contributor to my motivation and being
The Wednesday, if you hook up with that Wednesday group, a lot of those guys, it becomes their own little private groups, which I strongly encourage. You'll make a buddy or 2 or 3, and before you know it, you've got a group. I saw you gave me your marathon time there privately, but you find like-paced people. And when President Ryan was here years ago, his first go round, he was a law professor, and there was 14 guys. They were called the sub-3 guys, and they weren't elite. They were just all in the same zip code. And those guys became thick as thieves. And he was in that group. They were all guys that would break 3 hours. And, you have no business training with someone that's a lot faster than you. And the same thing, you have no business training with someone that's a lot slower than you. Cynthia and I never run together, ever. We go out the door together, and I say, how long are you going to be? Because typical spouse, I worry. And I just set my watch and know that I'm going to turn around at a certain point. I mean, Cynthia's so much faster than me. There's never been a good physical match. Training partners are really people. Someone pointed out years ago when the training partner moved away of 14 years, and she goes, it was like a divorce. She goes, I've been in depression, and you laugh about it, but to find someone that is compatible with you schedule-wise, pace-wise, and spiritually, that isn't going to drive you crazy the whole run because you're a Trump hater and they're a Trump lover or whatever, that's almost impossible to find. And yet over the years, we've managed to do it with this group. So anyway, yeah, the more you get yourself involved, Michael, the more you'll find those opportunities. It's just been impossible in COVID. It's, I'm a big matchmaker. It's in my blood. And if anybody's asking me, what's been the biggest, bummer thing for me in pandemic, it's that I haven't been able to bring people together. So I can't wait to get this started.
Cool. Looking forward to it. I'll see you on Wednesday.
Good. Anyone else? No?
Yeah, Mark, there's 2. I had a question about whether or not there's a deadline for the Wednesday pacing. Like, is there a deadline to have the 2-mile assessment sort of thing?
No, just have it done before you come to the one-on-one meeting.
Okay.
We're going to be doing it over the next, I think it's this Wednesday and the following Wednesday.
Awesome.
The next 2 Wednesdays, I'll be there with stopwatch in my hand, 6 o'clock. Be warmed up by 6. A lot of times people show up and they're not warmed up. I'm like, because warm up, I'd like for you to do at least a mile. And you can do it on going backwards on the track, or you can just go right close by to the high school. And then I'll give you a game plan and you'll execute it just like Donna did. She did it beautifully. I mean, that was about as, I came home and told my wife, she said, how many people showed up? I said, 1. She goes, a bummer. I said, nah, actually it was awesome because she listened and executed and was successful. And
right.
You take away that from that 2-mile time trial, that you can use that as a template for your training.
Right.
First quarter mile of your run should be the slowest. Second quarter
Right.
mile should be your second slowest. Third quarter mile should be your third slowest. So
But like next Wednesday, not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday is still okay to come by and do that.
I think it's the
Yes.
third. I think it's the
Okay.
second or third. of
No,
July.
just, it's this week and next week. Is that, those are the dates that you had. You had 3 dates, the 19th, the
Yeah,
26th.
and then I'll offer more dates later on too. Oh, and somebody wanted to mention, the woman or man who was saying they want to do a January marathon, please, no one-on-one meeting till I get to my September, October, November folks. I had someone the other day that's doing a November race, somehow got an early appointment. And I thought we made that pretty clear that let me get to those folks that are, it's chronological order of your event, not on when you sign up. Right, Leah? I mean, we're trying to encourage that, right?
Well, yeah, but also we don't want dates to get wasted.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Mark, the only other thing someone had put in the chat a couple of times, if this is an appropriate training program for trail running halves or fulls.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay, I saw that and I didn't respond to it. I noted it, but didn't respond. Yes, so I'm huge on simulation. So if you're going to be running a trail marathon or half marathon, the best place for you to be doing your long runs is on trails. And we don't have any of our long runs, any of our group runs are on the trail. So yes, it'd be somewhat appropriate. And I'm still happy to write you a program, but the group runs aren't going to prepare you as well as if you, now, if you find someone else in the group that happens to be your pace, that you want to meet and go on trails, that's where you should be doing your long runs. I think it's wonderful. I'm a big advocate of trail racing. However, this has historically been a road. Folks are signing up for road races. So, anyone
Can I
else?
ask a question?
Sure.
If I did the Charlottesville 10 miler virtually, does that count as with my time that I have for that? And I have all the splits.
If you raced it, Katie,
Or do you
and
want me to do the
you
2
were
mile?
tuckered out at the end, if you felt like you put out, if you actually raced it, then yes. But if you just ran it virtually to say you finished it, nope, doesn't count. Doesn't count towards, I mean, it counts, yes, but it doesn't help us with knowing what your
what the goal is, right?
So,
Okay.
yeah. So I know a lot of people that did it virtually. My experience as the coach for that training program was so many people did it virtually said, I just had a blast. I just gabbed with my friend. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that doesn't give us a scientific idea of what your potential is. So I know this is
Okay.
always a big pain for folks to have to find a race or do this 2 mile time trial. So, but I think if you ask Donna, she'll tell you it wasn't the worst thing in the world. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Katie. All right, so it looks like we're losing people. I saw the number peaked at about 50 and now we're down to 40. So that means people are getting off. So I don't blame you. So again, if you have any other questions, you can text me or stop by or wait for the one-on-ones. And then I'm going to be starting my weekly messages to you here soon. So I'm really looking forward to this. I don't want to sound like negative Nancy the whole time here. I really am looking forward to this. I love it. I love seeing the camaraderie and I love seeing the relationships and I definitely love seeing people improve. So what, Michael, did you have one more? Somebody?
Yeah, I heard you said stop by and that's the shop. Is that a running store or what is that?
Yeah, it's a shop and we're still outside. We're moving inside soon, hopefully. It's getting hot again and I'm not going to go through another. So most of our customers are fully vaccinated. We're still going to require masks inside, but yeah, that's worked well in the past. Just call ahead of time, text ahead of time, make sure I'm there because I'm not often there closing.
Cool.
So, yeah, and you guys, I see a shoe question. I'm not hawking shoes for my business. I love when people support our business. Don't get me wrong. It always warms my heart, but 400 miles is the mileage for a training shoe. However, when you're training for a marathon, we find that get a little over 300 is about what you're going to get out of a good protective miles out of a training shoe. Why? Because first off, it's the longer the run. So a 20-mile run is not the equivalent of 4 or 5 mile runs. It's more like 40 miles worth of 4 or 5 mile runs. Why? Because you get less efficient the longer you're out there. The shoe also gets really soaked with sweat and it just breaks it down. So we just find those harder miles on the shoes break them down quicker. And it ends up being, if you go 300 instead of 400, for most people, that's one extra pair a year. Still by far the most expensive thing going. It's like 35 cents every time you go out the door, pair of shoes. So anyway. And the water vest, this is a shameless plug, but you guys get 20% on any of the water things, because I am strongly encouraging you to get something that you can use. Like I said, most experienced runners, they don't set coolers out. That's been not a luxury, but it's been a nice perk we've had over the years, and we're still going to have, but it's just not going to be as frequent. Anyone else? All right. Well, thanks, Leah, again, for setting this up. And thanks for all of you for being here. I am looking forward to getting to know. There's a bunch of you that are veterans. I'm loving seeing you back. And you new folks, I'm looking forward to getting to know you. We're gonna have a good summer, a comeback summer. All right.
All right.
Thanks
Thanks,
again.
guys.
For setting it up.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.